Hello, I'm Dr. Judy Ho, and welcome to Mental Health Bites. In this podcast, we'll cover a timely topic, answer your burning questions, and leave you with a quick, actionable tip to better your mental wellness every single day. Today, we're going to talk about the pursuit of happiness. This is such an important topic. Everybody's always talking about how they can have more happiness and more joy in their life. And the pursuit of happiness is an age old tradition that dates back to some of our most famous philosophers like Aristotle and Plato. And people are always wondering, what does happiness really consist of? Is it possible to boost your happiness in a genuine way every single day? So, there's some research that suggests that happiness is made up of a formula. So, imagine a pie chart. On this pie chart, 50% of happiness is determined by your genes, 10% is determined by the circumstances in which you live, and 40% of happiness is determined by your actions, your attitude, the way that you think, and the way that you handle situations. So to me, this is very optimistic. Almost half of your happiness formula is actively controllable by you and your specific actions. If you're somewhat of a pessimist, you might say, well, but what about that 50%, that genetic load? What if I have people who are depressed in my family? Does that mean that genetically I'm also more predisposed to becoming depressed and therefore less happy overall? And here's a surprising thing: happiness and depression are not mutually exclusive. There is a way to be happy even when you're struggling with a clinical condition like depression. And that missing piece is living your life according to value and meaning, even when you're struggling. How many times have you said to yourself or heard someone say, well, when I feel better, when I'm less depressed, when I'm less anxious, then I'm going to do this? But if we always waited until we felt better, then we would never do anything in a timely manner. So the idea is maybe even if you are suffering, you can still take action towards those things that mean the most to you. I want to read a little bit about the research and what we know about happiness and see what you think about it. So, scientists began tracking the health of Harvard students in 1938 during the Great Depression. And they were hoping that this longitudinal study would reveal clues to leading healthy and happy lives. And it turns out that they found some really amazing and interesting results. After following the surviving Harvard students for nearly 80 years as part of the Harvard study of adult development, which is one of the world's longest studies of adult life, researchers found the following. One surprising finding is that our relationships and how happy we are in our relationships has a powerful influence on our health. This was talked about by Robert Waldinger, who was the director of the study and a psychiatrist at Massachusetts General Hospital and a professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. Close relationships, more than money or fame, are what keeps people happy throughout their lives. These ties protect people from life's discontents, helps to delay mental and physical decline, and are better predictors of long and happy lives than social class, intelligence, or even genes. And this finding proved true across the board among both Harvard students and other inner city participants that were also part of the research. If you haven't checked out Robert Waldinger's TED Talk, it is amazing. It talks about what makes a good life. And he discusses the most important lessons from the longest study on happiness. The researchers also found that relationship satisfaction had a protective effect on people's mental health. Part of a study found that people who had happy marriages in their 80s reported that their mood didn't suffer even on the days when they had more physical pain, which of course increases as one gets older. And conversely, those who had unhappy marriages felt both more emotional and physical pain. Essentially, those people who had more satisfied relationships lived longer and were happier. And people who felt alone, who felt disconnected, they were subject to a number of physical ailments and illnesses that shortened their lifespans. So, this is not completely new information. We know how important connected relationships are. But did you know that it's really about the quality of these relationships rather than how many people you have relationships with? It's not about the quantity. It's not about whether or not you have activities packed in your schedule every single day. It's whether or not you believe you matter to at least one other human being. Relatedly, in another recent study, researchers found that women who felt securely attached to their partners were less depressed and more happy in their relationships 2.5 years later. And they also had better memory functions than those with frequent marital conflicts. So essentially, good quality relationships, whether they're familial, friendship relationships, or romantic relationships, have a really important protective factor and also helps you to increase joy in your life. So you might wonder, how can I bolster relationships in my life? Well, our quick tip today is going to cover some of this, but I think that so much of this is about investing in people who you really think are going to add value to your life. These are people who perhaps you trust with your innermost thoughts, people who you're willing to delve into intellectual topics with, people who might share spiritual values the same as yours, people who share the same activities that they enjoy like you. All of these different kinds of ideas might help you to think about who you might want to cultivate a stronger relationship with today. And it can just start with a quick phone call, setting up a quick coffee date over the weekend. But the more that you can have deeper, higher quality relationships, the more it's going to bolster your level of happiness every single day. Now let's move on to our Q&A segment. Today, Marcia asks, what do I do if I feel like most of the times I'm a pessimist? Whenever I see a situation, the first thing that I think about is what could go wrong. And really, I think that I'm doing myself and other people a favor, but people are telling me that I'm being a negative Nancy. Well, it's really interesting, Marcia, but I do think that a lot of times when people say that they're pessimists, they're really actually realists because when you think about life, there's lots of challenges, there's lots of things that you might want to avoid in order to thrive psychologically and physically. So it's not so much that these thoughts and fears are completely unwarranted, but when you feel like they've gotten into a place where it's more extreme, when it's starting to affect your own quality of life as well as those around you, then perhaps it's time to think about how you might want to balance out your thinking and your actions as well. Most of the times, what we fear never comes true. I talked about this in my TED Talk, where they followed individuals who had generalized anxiety disorder for essentially a little bit over a month. They asked them to write down all of their deepest fears, everything that they were afraid of, and then they made them review these fears every single day for 30 days. And the end result was 91.4% of their worries never came true. I think that that's really important information. Oftentimes, what we fear and what we try to avoid in terms of potential catastrophes never come to light. So, if you can think about it from that lens, that can help you before you start to get really up into a thought train about something terrible that could happen. And also, I really like to use this little tip, which is called the yes, but tip. So, yes, acknowledging something that isn't going very well, that might be scary, that might be a source of fear, and then saying, but, and then filling that space with a thought or action that you can do to improve how you're doing today or something that is going well. So, yes, I can't control whether or not I get this job, but I can do everything that is in my power to prepare for this interview in the next couple of days until I have to go to it. Right. So start thinking in this yes, but fashion. Try to balance out your thoughts when you feel like you're overcome with negative thinking. And I think you'll find that your mind is going to thank you, and so will your friends and family. Hope that helps. Now let's move on to the actionable tip of the day. So, how do we increase happiness, even in a small way, even incrementally on a daily basis? Well, I have an acronym for you that will help you to remember some simple but effective strategies to increase your joy every single day. And this acronym is called GREAT Dream. This encompasses key actions for your happiness and well being. G stands for giving, which is doing something small for others. R stands for relating, connecting with people, a lot of what we talked about in this podcast today. E stands for exercising. So take care of your body. And on days when you're busy, it's okay if that exercise routine is just a few minutes. It's important to move your body and to become mindful with those physical actions as a way to well being. A stands for awareness, living life with awareness, with mindfulness, being able to stay in the present moment. As you guys may have heard already on earlier podcast episodes, my favorite way to do mindfulness is practical mindfulness, doing an activity that I'm almost going to do every single day anyway. But when I'm doing that activity, putting my full focus on it, that could include putting away the dishes, folding laundry, having my coffee in the morning, even showering. T stands for trying out. So keep learning new things, keep exploring new hobbies, do something novel at least once a week. D stands for direction, creating goals to look forward to, including short term goals, medium length goals, and long term goals. R stands for resilience. Keep working on those coping strategies and find ways to bounce back. If you need more ideas for how to cultivate resilience, you can follow me on social media or listen back to some of my previous podcast episodes. E stands for emotions, and particularly paying attention to positive feelings. So, looking for what's good, noticing when you have a positive experience and journal about it, tell somebody about it, or at least acknowledge it to yourself. A stands for acceptance. And acceptance can be really hard when you feel like you've made a mistake or when you're not feeling particularly good about yourself. But recognize that no human is perfect and you are valued for who you are, and be comfortable with the fact that we all come with our own flaws and that it's okay as long as we're working a little bit at a time towards being a better version of ourselves. And finally, meaning. M stands for meaning. This means looking for ways to be part of something bigger than yourself. Sometimes that does involve giving back. Other times it just may mean reflecting about your place in the universe and how vast this is. A lot of times people really get an understanding about how much meaning they have in their lives when they spend time in nature or when they do activities that might align with spirituality or religiosity. Every single person is different, but make it a goal to find meaning every single day in your life. Thanks everyone for tuning in to Mental Health Bites. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, there's plenty more where that came from. So make sure to hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon so you never miss an update. Also, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and leave a comment below with your thoughts or any questions you have or any topics you want me to cover on future episodes. And feel free to share this video with your friends and family who might find it useful. Stay tuned for more awesome content, and until then, take care of your mental health.